Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Manny, we hear you.
Okay, great. For everyone that's joined, thank you. We will be starting in about 1 minute, just letting everyone dial in.
Hello.
Hello, hello. Okay, I think we have everyone in the space now. So I say we get started. Well, again, hello everyone, and welcome to another Twitter Spaces Roundtable hosted by Morningstar Ventures. This week, we are tackling a very hot topic in the crypto space, namely how we are transitioning the world to DeFi. So joining us today, we have three experts in the DeFi field. So please welcome Mounir, the co-founder and CEO of Paraswap, Thanh, the co-founder and CEO of Coin98, and Albert, the CTO of Injective. Welcome, everyone. So I'm your host, Naini, and together with my co-host, Peter, we are again very much looking forward to discussing a topic that has perhaps been on most people's radars since the DeFi summer of 2020. So if you joined one of our spaces before, you know that we always spend around 30 minutes talking to our guests, and we save about 15 to 20 minutes at the end of the session for all audience questions. Please feel free to write your questions in the comment section below during our session, and we will make sure to get to them at the end. And for those of you who want to participate in the Q&A with a live question, via microphone, then please do make sure that you are dialed in via your mobile because the desktop Twitter Spaces doesn't allow that function yet. Okay, so that's all from my side. I say we get started with a round of introductions. So, first question to our guests is to please tell us a little bit more about your project and what value your product adds to the DeFi space. And I will let you go first, Mounir. Then we can go with Thanh, and Albert, you can finish off the round of introductions. Mounir, go ahead.
Thanks everyone. Happy to be here. So I'm Mounir, founder of Paraswap. Paraswap is a decentralized liquidity aggregator, or a middleware, as we'd like to call it. The value proposition for users is allowing them to trade on-chain in a non-custodial fashion and getting prices that are better than the market, similar to using an Expedia or a Booking.com to get the best possible airline tickets. So far, we've been running since 2019. So we started actually in the middle of the previous bear markets, and in also an incredible excitement at that time. And now it's amazing to see how the DeFi space has grown from few thousand people to multiple millions of users.
Hi everyone, this is Thanh from Coin98. So I think at Coin98 we are building a multi-chain wallet that available on iOS, Android, and also on Chrome extension. That's trying to making Web3 accessible to everyone. So we started Coin98 back in 2020, building a wallet. Starting with Ethereum and a couple of chain first, and nowadays we already have like 50 plus chain already, and like serving 6 million users across the world. I think our mission at Coin98 is again making, trying to bring Web3 to everyone in the world. Making we really want to see the day that Web3 get into the mainstream. And I think wallet is a very interface where it should be the first product that every Web2 users starting to use before they interact with every protocols or decentralized applications, or blockchain platforms. And I think the user onboarding process for Web3 is still there's still a lot of room to improve. Yeah, that's basically what we do at Coin98, and very excited to really joining the discussion today, where to talk about transitioning the world to DeFi.
Hi everyone, I'm Albert, the co-founder and CTO of Injective. So Injective is a layer 1 blockchain built for finance. It offers developers a very plug-and-play suite of DeFi primitives that builders can compose with. And at its core, we also have a high-throughput order book-based DEX for spot, perps, futures, and binary options. So the main focus of the blockchain has been really to be tailored for next generation DeFi applications. And over the past year, we've been growing our ecosystem with a whole diverse array of offerings for both retail and institutional. And yeah, it's been really exciting to grow further with more products and unique offerings on Injective.
Thank you for the great introductions. Albert, I think I'll stay with you actually. So you were saying that you've been building in the past couple of years, and given that you're in layer 1 blockchain that's optimized for building DeFi applications. So can you tell us a little bit, what are the challenges that you've seen in the DeFi environment over the past years or currently? And what unique features is Injective providing to the DeFi developers to address these said challenges?
Yeah, I think until recently, one of the meta challenges has been that until the fall of FTX, the whole value proposition of DeFi was not that well appreciated in the public's collective consciousness. But through the failures of CeFi in the last year, from FTX on the exchange side, or BlockFi and Celsius, or Genesis on the lending side, and even shops like 3AC on the prop side, I think users really understand that the convenience of centralization can come with pretty severe costs as things unravel all at once. So Injective at its core, we've always been really committed to full decentralization And it was, a large part of the reason why we started in the first place this way. But yeah, to answer your question, I guess like there are many issues, problems, challenges building in DeFi, and still maintaining a really high quality experience. So like a few examples of these are UX, just from having to use a self-custodied wallet and have all the friction of onboarding through fiat and then bridging and then dealing with things like the latency of the blockchain and gas is one. So, Injective, on the infrastructure side, we've tried to make a lot of these things as seamless as we can, from, pushing tendermints to reduce block times down to 1 second, and, allowing users to have things like gasless transactions. But, all that said, I think that there are some fundamental challenges that we face just on the technology side of trying to bridge the gap between like these more Web 2 services that things like Sexes can offer, and in the context of blockchains, where you have to design your application in this context of like this deterministic state machine that's replicated across like a geographical distributed network. And yeah, it's through a lot of engineering that these gaps can shrink over time as we create more innovative mechanisms, but it's definitely a lot harder. And on that front, at Injective, I would say we're quite unique in that we both build like the underlying layer 1 blockchain and maintain the infrastructure there, but we also build things on the application layer, like most notably the DEX, where we ourselves try to push these things like performance and latency to the limit. And the advantage of this is that we're very well informed of like one, designing the right primitives, even just for ourselves, but also for other builders to leverage, and two, providing really robust underlying infrastructure. Whether it's things like node RPCs or indexers or SDKs, APIs, etc., and all the other things that can make the lives of builders easier. But yeah, it's definitely still in the early days for us. Many rough edges that developers will have to just learn about and go around.
Cool. Thanks for the rich reply, Albert. By the way, dear guests, as even if we address questions to specific guests, feel free to add your notes and feedback about any question, because we all know that you are experts in DeFi industry and know a lot about infrastructure and all DeFi environment. And I would like to ask Mounir, as Paraswap offers some solutions for more institutional companies and in DeFi space. I would like to ask that given the growing adoption of DeFi in projects among traditional financial institutions, what do you think is the main advantage of their implementation and having these institutions in DeFi space integrating projects and solutions, as for example you do and other players in the industry do?
Yeah, that's a great question. And actually, since November, with the FTX fall, we've seen a big flow of institutions coming to us and showing interest in our product and in DeFi in general. These guys were in the first place going to trade on CeFi or use CeFi products. So they made up their mind already to be in crypto, but they made the right choice in the beginning. And thanks to the FTX fall, they got to know more about DeFi, and actually DeFi provides much secure, much better solutions to what they were expecting. They were very surprised to hear how DeFi works. And two key things actually. The first one is the counterparty risk, which is completely suppressed by using DeFi, and the instant settlement components, which is a big upgrade to what we have already in TradeFi. So once they discovered that, they started immediately digging dive, and now we are in a very advanced phase with some banks and large hedge funds who are already taking this to the regulators and asking for non-action letters, for permissions, in order to deploy DeFi as a large-scale pilot for their customers. So I think it's just a matter of time now. We used to, in the previous cycle, say this meme that institutions are coming. We started to hear that, and it was the vibes of a new bear market. But the thing I believe that it's different this time is that it is really happening, and we see trading desks and infrastructure teams in those institutions concretely right now using DeFi and getting ready to take that to a large scale, I would say, configuration.
Thanks for the insights, Mounir. Really interesting, especially for those our listeners and crypto enthusiasts who want to know how big institutions specifically integrate DeFi and what they request from you and how they react to all tools and infrastructures that you provide to them. That's really interesting. And continuing the topic of relationships between traditional financial markets and DeFi, I would like to ask Thanh, but do you think that TradFi is slowly moving to DeFi, and do you see many people from TradFi coming on to work on DeFi solutions? And we see over the last 2 years, and especially in for the product which is focused on the Vietnam market on Vietnam, where the general level of adoption of crypto is quite high.
Yeah, sure. I think from our side, if not sure if anyone here is living in emerging markets like Vietnam or Southeast Asia or I think like somewhere in the Southeast in the South America. From outside, I've seen a lot of my friends coming from TradFi and slowly moving to DeFi right now. Couple of reasons. The first one is like so if you live in the emerging markets like Vietnam and Thailand and other markets, you're gonna see that all these kind of TradFi, all these TradFi people already familiar with all the like um, a very professional, financial infrastructure, like tools and platforms. People who are very like professional with and familiar with quant trading and all this kind of platform derivatives and stuff like that. The problem is that when you take a look at the market size of all this emerging market, is not it's not too big compared to like the market size of the crypto. Um, and well, for all these people, when with all the like the know-how and also like the experience that they have from TradFi, when I look into the crypto space, then you see like the market size and also the opportunity for them is so big. And then given that they're because they're so very like have a very rich experience on TradFi, they see there's a gap on what kind of like really high demand infrastructure that every financial market would need. And somehow in DeFi we're still like missing all these kind of tools and also platform or protocols to have all these like professional trading firms or exchanges to operate it in a very efficient way. And with another reason is that with the bull market in the last 2 years, a lot of people like spending a lot of time and to learn about the crypto and stuff like that. Border market enable like ability to access into like 7 billion people market size instead of like just 100 million populations in like Vietnam. So I'm seeing like more a trend where more and more TradFi people who already spend like a decade, 2 decades, or even their life working in TradFi, and now to see like more opportunity, and also seeing the gap between all this between these two infrastructure layer, and then now to see opportunity, and I want to like enter more get into DeFi.
Great. Really interesting to hear about the trend and to see more builders with a great TradeFi experience in the DeFi. And we're always welcome for new people, for new talented people there, for sure. And as we see that the number of builders, the number of companies with TradeFi background or without is increasing, I would like to touch the topic of the building itself on the DeFi space. And I would like to ask Albert, as Injective recently released a 150 million US dollars ecosystem venture group where you invest in DeFi focused project. As a builder and investor yourself, which way are you planning to support projects that are building on Injective? What do you believe is needed for in your ecosystem right now? And what are some initiatives that you have been executed already during this program? I think this question would be really useful for builders and for people who want to start building on DeFi right now.
Yeah, I mean, the whole ecosystem fund, in terms of growing the ecosystem, has been really, really exciting. There's many projects building, many that are to come. And of course, we do our best to support all these projects, whether it's, of course, through funding, but also technical support, and, just working closely with them to tailor like growth strategy, marketing plans, and, launch strategy, things like that. Of course, and industry connections. One of the more immediate things we're actually doing is the Injective Hackathon, which is going to be happening later this month. And it's a 4-week-long virtual event. So we'll have over $1 million in prizes and also seed funding opportunity. And yeah, so I think that will be very exciting to see just a whole global audience get to try building on Injective.
Yeah, got it. Could you please elaborate more on the what do you think are the most crucial elements for building in DeFi, specifically on Injective that you see that is needed right now? And also, I would like to hear Than's and Mounir's opinion as well for DeFi space in general. What do you see is needed for industry right now as a in terms of tools, in terms of new protocols or solution that is needed to build these days and most relevant and actual for the audience and for users of DeFi?
Yeah, I have a few opinions here. I think one, the things that need to be built are things that will like increase the total like TAM or like obtainable market for real users in the real world. I think that an example of a project that's building on Injective is Frontrunner, which will launch this year for having sports betting prediction markets, where individual users who know nothing about, let's say, DeFi or derivatives or leverage trading can just bet on different sports events, right? And that's a very clear use case that many people will want. On the other side, I think that improving the efficiency of DeFi. This can be things, like, for example, what we've done with, a low latency and high throughput order book, but also, bridging the gap between CeFi and DeFi. So, making things like lending really efficient, adding support for like on-chain European options, and things that, really make DeFi better than CeFi, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thanh, Mounir, do you have something to add from your side?
I can go ahead first if you want. Well, definitely the DeFi user experience for users and developers has improved. We can call it in an exponential way. So if we're looking at DeFi infrastructure and tooling in the last 5 years, say 2019, early 2020, it was very hard to build the product in the space. But now we have a lot of tools, a lot of project who are specialized in a very specific niche need of a developer or user. But I would say we are halfway there still. Because if you're a Web2 engineer, developer, or a user coming from TradeFi, you will find it very hard to get onboarded. You need to digest a lot of concepts in order to make the very first step, which is making a trade, making a deposit on Aave, and so on. So today I was looking into a tweet from Lucas from Gnosis talking about this abstraction meme, which is actually a very useful context where we recently the buzz was account abstraction, but there is more than that. There is gas abstraction, which has been a topic for years already, and I think we reached a decent progress so far. Instadap also released today this network abstraction, where users or developers don't even need to care about which chain is underlying that particular dApp, which I believe is definitely the future. And I imagine a world in the future where you interact with DeFi and you don't feel any difference between that and using a Robinhood or Venmo or any traditional fintech or TradeFi application, where I have a digital asset, say ETH, and I want to sell it for dollars. And behind the scenes, DeFi is used and completely abstracted for the user. So maybe this ETH is going to be sold to USDC and DAI in two different chains, and the user doesn't need to know all of this detail. I mean, they can know if they want, or advanced users or traders or developers, they are connected to those concepts, but the end user doesn't really need to know what's happening behind the scenes. But if they want, they can. And if they want to withdraw to US dollars in this particular example, all they need to do is ask the app to do it, or they can go on chain themselves and do it that. So I believe the key is to completely abstract all those concepts and make them as smooth as possible, as completely transparent. And I think it's a little bit similar to early days of internet, as we often say. It's like asking someone to go to a website and asking them to do a telnet, whatever it's a Linux command with a port number and interpreting the result. I mean, nobody can do that. Everyone can in theory, but everyone wants to just go to Google and type the website name and they get it loaded for them and being taken care of. And I think DeFi should look like that in the future. And I think we are halfway of providing a complete infrastructure for developers to build this level of abstraction.
Yeah, I agree with Mounir and also Albert on this. Just want to add on some, some of the thoughts that I think, I think we take a look at most of the like decentralized application and also protocols on in DeFi or in Web3 today. We're gonna see that not it's there's very few number protocols that have, like, let's say, a million plus users. One of the, I think, like, if you read about the, I think, the infrastructure and application growth cycles, every infrastructure layer only grows, every cycles when there's a couple of applications that pushing the limit of the previous infra. And then it leads to the point that for now, the reason from my opinions, the reason why we don't have like a lot of protocols and applications that have millions of users is that the onboarding process and also key, like, wallet management or key management for all the Web2 users is still like too heavy, like, it's unfriendly. So even if for a couple of I even talked to a couple of like Web2 developers, and then even that they are very like tech heavy guys, and very easy. We are all assume that learning about new technology is super easy for developers, but and then creating a wallet, download MetaMask or coin a wallet, and then create, like, storing, backupping your private key and learning the concept of using a wallet is also a very big barrier. So that's one, I totally agree with Mounir that in the future, which is what we are working right now at Coin 982, is like We're working on trying to working on a couple of solutions. We have like 2 new products that are coming out. That focus on account abstraction and also MPC wallet, where I think this kind of like technology can also have us to onboarding Web2 users, a massive amount of users to start using Web3 applications and protocols, and from there we can also that would be because we because of the ability to onboarding all these like millions of users into Web3 and DeFi. Now we're gonna see there will be the next protocols that having like serving like millions of users as well, and then that would be the tipping point where we're seeing the I think like the of DeFi, where there would be a lot of capital flowing to crypto, and then there would be a lot of like protocols needing users and also interactions, activities. All this thing will happen. But yeah, again, I think like onboarding process. That if we would really want to see the day that crypto gets to the mass, crypto onboarding, like user onboarding or wallet management still I think would be the first key that the first problem we need to solve before we start thinking about onboarding like the next million of users for applications and protocols.
Thank you for answering our question on it. I completely see where you're coming from. A seamless user experience is definitely something that is always helpful when onboarding users that are maybe not as knowledgeable about the space. And I agree with what you said, Mounir. I also don't think that much about the product that I'm using, like how the interface looks like, but I'm just happy when it works properly. But anyway, talking a little bit more about Mounir, about Paraswap. So you introduced the PSP 2.0. It had a major tokenomics change with new staking mechanisms and also a social escrow system to allocate the accumulated protocol fees to the users who add value and perform services to Paraswap. And this update, you actually proposed it for voting, and it was passed by the DAO. So this is quite interesting because obviously DAO mechanisms, they create, they engage a wider audience to use DeFi protocols. And could you tell us a little bit about, how it was and how the governance process affected the implementation of your product updates, and if this was a challenge or what benefits you saw from it?
Yeah, sure. So the objective of PSP 2.0 was to build a healthy ecosystem and aligning the interest of users, the DAO, and the protocol in general, and having all parties create value for each other. For instance, users, they are trading, they are bringing volume, bringing fees, they can be stakers at the same time, and by doing this quote unquote work by trading, by market making, referring, in all of that, they are adding value and they are getting paid for this value in ETH, not in token inflation as we had in the previous tokenomics. And that created a very interesting dynamics where people perceive that as a real payment between quote, or what we call real yield, because it's not just in the native token. The process was very interesting because we went from a very simple iteration to a more complex system, which is now called social escrow. The simple iteration was you take PSP and you get paid in ETH, and now it becomes more of a social coordination where every single participant has put his footprints in the success of the PSP 2.0, and also led to a roadmap, not just a single improvements. So there's a roadmap that lasts for a few months, and we still, I would say, in mid-term in terms of how far we went on the implementation. And we actually had the first epoch, so we can see the results, and some people were extremely happy of the results they have achieved from the value that they accrued on the first epoch. And now we're trying to see how we can get more involvement from the community. For instance, it used to be there is a core team, and the core participants that you can say are more or less the same people. But now, working with other DAOs, we built what we call GovCo, which is like a council formed by other projects from the space, like Balancer, Jarvis, Paladin, Enzyme, and others. And that brought in a huge value because we are now leveraging not only our experience, but the experience of other protocols, like Balancer, for instance, with their Maxi program. We got an inspiration from that, and we built now what we call paratroopers, which is a group of community members who are contributing to the improvements of the protocol. And the magic, we start to see the magic. Like everyone is contributing, and people are bringing ideas that we could never thought about by ourselves, and that's also attracting new members because they see that they can not only join a DAO and comment on Discord and Twitter, but really bring their own experience, expertise, and skills to build an impact that is consequential for the DAO. So this is how we call it a social escrow, where a community gets together and shares its experience in involvement and energy to build this impact where we can start already see the results.
Nice, yeah. Congratulations on the recent launch, and also community is so important, right? It's really cool to hear that they were coming up with ideas that you hadn't thought about. And yeah, and as for the roadmap, will that be shown soon to the community and to the public?
Yes. Well, the roadmap is public. It's on the forum. It's not maybe formalized in a proper roadmap way, but it's maybe that's something we should definitely do. But it's in the proposal, the PSP 2.0 proposal. For instance, one of the very interesting things is what we call para accounts or Paraswap accounts, and that's a feedback that came from a lot of big users, but also small users. For instance, and that's a lot of things that other DAOs are doing, where a wallet equals a theory a user, which is in reality not true, because many users, they use multiple wallets. And the feedback we got from having the council, like the GovCo, the paratroopers discussion in the forum is that, well, you know what, I would like to stake with this wallet, but I'm trading from another wallet and I'm market making from another wallet. So that emerged from those discussions. We emerged an idea that is para accounts, where we can have a consolidation of multiple accounts bundled in a single account. So that's something that is upcoming. Also, we try to be lean, so apply some lean startup concepts in DAOs, and we see a lot of projects doing the same by iterating. So instead of having a fixed roadmap for multiple months, we think that this is not working in crypto because it's moving incredibly fast. So we try to build this feedback loop where each improvements or each proposal or each epoch, we try to gather data and go through this data and try to come up with hypotheses. And from those hypotheses, we build tests, like small iterations of products. And we continue this cycle until we reach a product that is aligned with what users are expecting. And we are now in the beginning, and the Para account is a nice example. And I believe we have this validation, and I hope in the coming 3, 4, 5, 6 months, we will reach what we will hope that it's not a perfect alignment, but a maximum alignment with what our users expect.
Okay, great. I'll be sure to check it out. So moving on a little bit, so you were saying that you have so many range of products, and obviously this is also something that Thanh with Coin98, you also have an incredible range of products, which that allows your users to do everything from swapping to trade, stake, send, and also monitor the market and much more. Now, you were talking a bit earlier about how you're also coming up with some new products that's looking to further onboard more users and also go into a little bit more into the mainstream. But suppose that you had to choose which one of your products is you think is most used by your customer, and which you think is also most applicable for future mainstream adoption via traditional financial services.
Yeah, very good question. I think like for and the cross-border transactions would be like one of the use cases that I think our users using the most right now. So even like for us, right? We are a builder, but also a users of the product as well. Like using crypto, is very easy for us to like sending like the capital across the world. Like you can now using your capital to access in, like to invest in project in the U.S. You can send the money into to like your family in Australia, in Singapore, or any countries in the world in a very efficient way. This just never happens when you start interacting with like the traditional banking system. And for us, that's also the reason why we believe that this is still like the one of the most use case that people using the wallet right now. Besides of that, NFTs trading is also a is a super potential. And talking about like the future mainstream adoption, I do think that NFT trading and anything related to token trading would be the thing that traditional users might be interested in. I think this is very aligned with what I believe in Albert, Eric, and everyone's at Injective, or even like Mounir is trying to build a Paraswap as well. Trading is still a very very strong use case, and then that people using the most right now. I think in the future we will expand the trading, the trading. Activities, not only just limit from like trading like normal tokens, but also putting more focus on NFT trading as well. And there will be a lot of financial services, NFT fi and stuff like that, where we can financial NFT stuff. That would be something I think that very as the NFT market grows and more people start interacting with NFTs. And probably I do believe that NFTs will be the one of very good vehicle for mainstream users to start like using crypto and Web3. There will be more and more service financial services that you can use on top of NFTs, and that would be the most use case that I believe in would be have it would have the most potential in the future.
Thanks, Tan. As we're continuing speaking about drivers of mass adoption and future of DeFi that could be used for next millions of users in the ecosystem, I would like to touch the topic of issues of DeFi. As we know, there are two major problems in DeFi. First one is security, such as hacks or human errors related to coding and some mistakes by developers. And the second one is lack of regulation and transparency. How do you see the ideal evolution of the DeFi space then? Albert, I would like you to go first, then Tan and Mounir, you can pick up the question.
Sure. I think generally, I think the DeFi industry and crypto industry more broadly will mature. So we'll have things like best practices emerging, and just the general knowledge by builders, auditors, researchers, and even end users looking at smart contracts will improve. So all of these will lead to like higher quality software being written with fewer bugs and exploits, but the journey there is rocky and has proven to be really rocky, and DeFi will continue to be in this experimental phase. More so on the root problem though, I do think that there's like often this inherent tension between innovation and security, and like protocol builders are faced with this choice of exercising good judgment, and becoming efficient and more exhaustive when dealing with like security. So robust and like thorough testing here is essential, and that's what we spend a ton of time on and effort on at Injective. But I think many other teams don't, and especially during like a frenzy of like a mania like DeFi summer, security is a lesser consideration, since the incentives in the short term really are just to launch quickly and figure things out as you go. And before you know it, you can have a hack and billions of dollars of funds lost, right? So I think the ideal evolution is like similar to this idea of like a flight to quality, where over time things like security, robustness, and like lendiness are things that the community really vocally cares about, enough so that like protocol builders aren't faced with these warped short-term incentives and just try to appeal to just a handful of degens and launch something that's not secure. So yeah, they say that like the market is a voting machine in the short term, but in the long term, it's a weighing machine. And I guess my hope is that the weight can swing the other way, where long-term value creation for society is something that people care more about.
Great thoughts, Albert. Thanks for the review, especially regarding the long-term vision that builders should follow, not to spoil audience and their economy with the short-term incentives and some shady practices of rewarding that are not sustainable. And Thanh, Mounir, do you have something to add regarding the ideal evolution of DeFi space?
Can maybe go first? I totally agree with what Albert said. Security should be always top priority of projects, no matter how tempting it is to launch fast. And we've seen a lot of examples of some project wanted to catch up on their competitors because they felt the FOMO. If they don't launch that feature or that feature, they will be left out and they will lose all their users. So they launch quickly, but the thing is, what happens? Well, they still lose all their users because simply they made them lose consequential amounts of money, or they got a big reputation issue because the hack itself reduced the confidence on that protocol. So I think no matter how the FOMO is, safety of users, and that's a responsibility as well that DeFi protocols have to take. And also there is a misconception, especially after the FTX fall, that DeFi now is safe because it's non-custodial. I would say there's still a risk of technological risk that we're taking, and it got much better. If you remember 2022, 2021, 2020 actually also with DeFi Summer, it was very normal to hear a hack almost on a monthly basis, sometimes even more. Now we hear less and less of those because teams are simply paying more attention. And what I hope in the future is to have more standards. And we've seen more of that on protocol taking the initiative of building some standards on how some of the features have to be built. And I think we can also borrow some of the concept from traditional finance that they got right with a lot of standards that have been theorized and worked with researchers over years. We don't need to do the same thing, but we can build things that are for the space. Also, we have things like formal verification, with some project also specializing on those. So, I mean, we have some toolings that are being built or some concept that being built that will help mitigate those security risks.
Yeah, I do agree with Albert and also Mounir on this, but I want to follow up on, I think like, besides security, of course, the team should, should like, put a more focus on security side. But I think on the other, on the other side, we might want to see a future where, there would be, all the users will have more and more, to do like willing to spend more time to learn more about crypto and how to like keep themselves like to protect their assets. I think like this is something I already mentioned on one of the tweets a few months ago, but self custodial also bring it means that you control your assets, but you also the one who control, like, taking the risk and responsible for all the assets, for the safety of your assets too. So like I think like the best, beside of like always asking for the protocols to like building more security products and stuff like that, we also need to aware that our like we the users need to be the one like take 100% of the credit and responsible for the safety of our assets. And then in order to do so, we need to increase our education levels and try to learn more about crypto, how to use and how to interact with contract, what is the risk when the risk level when we're interacting with a specific contract or a protocols. And yeah, I think as we the education level of every DeFi users growing, we will see more less and less I think like bad things happens in DeFi space.
Great, thanks guys for answering all of our questions. That was indeed the last one from us. Thanh, I just wanted to say I agree. Education definitely leads to less error, and lifelong learning in crypto is you learn something new every single day. So good one to end our talk. We do have a couple of audience questions in the chat already, but I also saw throughout the session that there were a couple of audience members who had requested to talk, to ask their questions. So if you would like to request again to ask our guests any of your questions, please go ahead and do that right now. Until we get some live audience questions, we do have two in the chat from, let's see here. So Marco, he actually asked an interesting question. He says, do you think that the ultimate DeFi goal is to replace traditional finance? Who wants to take this one?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, then.
Yeah, go. Okay, so I'll go first. I think like from my personal opinion, I don't think that we like DeFi need to be 100% replacing the traditional DeFi. I do see some of the area where TradFi also have their advantage, and I also see some kind of area where DeFi have more advantage than TradFi as well. For me, I rather want to live in a future where everything that I think DeFi can take advantage, I can just use DeFi products. But for other stuff that I want to be, I want to, I don't want to use a trustless product, but want to, want some a centralized party to help me to do other stuff. I would rather to use TradFi as well. And another thing is like, I think like DeFi was born to not, it's just a kind of like upgrading and fulfill a new demand of the new generation of citizen. I think like as our technology grows, there will be more and more problems that we need to solve, and then there will be a set of people who have like a higher like demands, people who want a freedom of money, people who want access into a trustless product that nobody controls and stuff like that. But not everyone's who have the same, not everyone in the world can have the same interest than them. So there will be some people in the world also happy to using a centralized product that highly licensed by a government, stuff like that. So I think there will be the market for both, and DeFi don't need to be 100% necessary like replacing TradFi. But I think would love to hear Albert and also Mounir thoughts on this too.
Yeah, totally agree. What I can add is my vision of DeFi in the future. I see it more of a technology, but also an option for end users. So a technology in a sense that TradeFi can use DeFi. We can imagine a world where real-world assets will be traded on-chain and using the same tech that we have nowadays, or like in a V10 of the tech that we're using today, to make markets more efficient and robust and secure. But also users can also directly interact with the same technologies that the big guys are using, which is not possible today. So it's giving a choice to the end users. It's democratizing access to finance to any person in the world, no matter which jurisdiction they live in, which financial controls they are in those countries. But it's definitely not going to replace TradeFi, simply because it's just a different category, and that cannot go away in regulations in countries and sovereignty of each countries. It's something that is not going to move, and I don't even believe that it should. But here we are bringing a technological solution, as the internet brought this technological solution of giving access and democratizing access to the information. Here we are democratizing access to the value.
Yeah, I think one framing that I quite like, it's actually a quote from Vitalik. It's that, decentralization is sought as a process towards efficiency and not a moral or political stand. And the idea is for all market players to retain the ability to decide without having to follow the instructions of some centralized economic power. I think that the failures of CeFi in the past year have been apparent. I think TradFi continues to extract large amounts of rent and is in many ways just more inefficient than DeFi. I think something like $1 or $2 trillion are made by banks just on remittances and sending money from one person to another, and that's a massive source of inefficiency in the world, right? So I think that like more people will continue to see the value prop of DeFi. And there naturally will be a migration to this, and it'll be inevitable that DeFi will continue to grow.
Well put, all three of you. And we have one more question from our audience. A lot of fans from Vietnam as well. So from a community perspective, so jumping gears over to community, which we had covered in earlier in this session. So in which regions do you see the rise of interest in DeFi tools in 2023? Mounir, do you have
Sure.
Do you have an estimate?
Yeah, well, the benefit also of DeFi is that it's borderless, so we see interest coming from everywhere. But we see also more interest coming from countries where the population is unhappy with its financial system, and they see DeFi as a relief, as a place where they can express themselves and they can, I would say, extract value and invest in a free way. So we see a lot of Southeast Asia, obviously, as we hear everywhere. We see a lot of Africa, like Nigeria and other countries, in South America as well, in terms of number of users, and that's growing constantly since the last year, and we can see that has been growing even more in 2023.
Great. Albert, what about you?
Maybe I'll let someone else answer this.
Sure. Thanh, do you see any regions?
Yeah. Maybe I'm a little bit biased on this because we're in Asia as well. But I think like in this year, we're gonna see more and more money coming out from Asia, especially China as well. So I think a lot of people aware of the like Hong Kong announcement, and now I think like in the last 2 years, because of COVID and lockdown, and very strict policies from China. People in China cannot, deploy capital into crypto. But now with the upcoming Hong Kong open policies, it could enable a lot of like family offices and also retails that now can start using their fiat into buying crypto. I think that would be a massive amount of money that will flow into crypto and DeFi, in my opinion, for this year.
Great, thanks. Thanks for your questions to the audience, and also thank you for your answers. I think that's it from audience questions, unless we have any last minute people in the session who want to ask a question. If not, feel free to just pop them in the chat, and we can always take a look at them after the session as well. Yeah, we're pretty much at the top of the hour again, and it's been really great chatting with all three of you. Very, very interesting and also extremely important topic that we covered today. And we also thank everyone who joined the session from all over the world. I think we cover most of the time zones with this chat. Just to let you guys know that the session was recorded, so if there was anything that you felt like you wanted to brush up on again, feel free to find the recording on our Twitter page. We also host these live Twitter spaces in a roundtables format and also as a live podcast almost every week. So please do stay tuned on our Morningstar Ventures Twitter page for more upcoming spaces. And just as a little sneak peek, next week, our podcast host, Tsabi, will be talking to the co-founder and CEO of Jumbo, James Cheng. So please, if you're interested in that, make sure to set your reminder and dial in. Thank you again to you, Albert, Thanh, and Mounir. It was amazing talking to you. Thanks, Peter, as well, for co-hosting. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks.
everyone.